Welcome to Entertainment 411. I'm your host today, Bobby Del Rio. If you haven't been here before, what we do is we profile top people in the Canadian industry, in front of the camera, behind the camera. We get pretty amazing people every single week. Today's no exception. Today's actually a very special episode in collaboration with Actra Toronto. So I'm going to get into a little bit about what we're doing today. So today's a bit different because we're going behind the scenes. We're diving into a proposal that would create one of the most significant changes to affect our industry in years here in Canada. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Ontario government is proposing to license talent agents. Now, this is something that's been in place in British Columbia for the past 30 years, but it would be new to Ontario. So this proposal has the potential to reshape how agents and talent work together, and it ensures agents' accountability and strengthens protection for talent. This is a critical moment for actors and agents and all industry professionals to understand how these changes could impact careers. And so we're going to get clarity straight from the experts. Okay, so today it's very exciting. We're joined by three Actra Toronto representatives who are here to help us unpack what licensed agents means for both talent and the agencies that represent them. So let's welcome Actra Toronto's Executive Director, ALISTAIR HEPBURN.
Hey, Bobby.
Actra Toronto counselor, performer, and culinary master, ASANTE TRACEY.
Hey, y'all.
What's cooking? What's cooking? And the chairperson of Actra Toronto's Apprentice Caucus and performer, Victoria Brooks. Look at them. They've appeared out of nowhere, and they brought their expertise. Welcome to 411, everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
Pleasure
Bobby.
to be here.
So let's get into it. So for anyone who doesn't know, let's get right to maybe like a bit of a recap here. Maybe Alistair, that'd be good for you. So what exactly is happening right now? Why is this so pivotal, this moment?
Yeah, so right now the Ontario government, led by the Ministry of Labour, is doing a consultation process on about the legislation and regulation of talent agents. This kind of came about, there was a rather high-profile incident that occurred a couple of years ago, where over 100 performers have lost over $1 million to an agent that decided to keep the money. So that really has been in the works since that point. And now the government finally recognized that this is an issue that they need to tackle, put the consultation process into the Working for Workers 7 Act. First time that any sort of talent-based have seen themselves considered a worker, working for workers, which is dynamite. And now they're out doing this consultation until September 22nd. To get some feedback on what they want to do with this.
Okay, so here's a question I'm going to throw to the panel then, and anybody who wants to jump in. There's no order here, really. What was your first reaction when you heard the government of Ontario was considering licensing talent agents?
Oh, Asante, can I jump in? I've been itching.
Go for it. Yes.
I'll be honest, Bobby. At first, when I heard that, I almost didn't believe it was possible or even true. I'll shoot straight from the hip on that one, because it is somewhat of a huge change in the way that things operate. But it's also a very small change when I started to really unpack it for myself, because it's huge in that it's groundbreaking in its impact, of course, on performers and peace of mind in terms of the financial impact. But it's really a small change in that, it should just be an additional piece of paperwork to establish the license. So I started to be very, very hopeful that this was going to be pushed forward, but I realized that would still require a lot of work for that to continue uphill battle.
Right, that makes sense. Asante, I think you wanted to jump in there.
Honestly, I was just going to say, it's about time. It's about time. I mean, now that I've spent many years in this business, and I've also now had some exposure to other businesses and see how they work in comparison to ours, this should be a no-brainer. This should be a no-brainer. The vulnerability that artists face on a day-to-day is actually quite astounding. And this is such a great step in the right direction to start empowering us and returning dignity back to our profession, because that's what it is. It's a profession. Make no mistake. And now more than ever, we are entrepreneurs, right? And without protections and regulations and licenses and all this good stuff in place, it becomes very, very difficult to move as an entrepreneur and to be able to stand on your own two feet. So I'm overjoyed by this.
Yeah, this is good. Okay, we're 2 for 2. Alistair, what were your first thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, really, this is a natural step for Ontario to actually explore. There are jurisdictions around the world that have these protections in place. You talked about British Columbia having it in place for 30 years. You know, New York, California, the major centers have this, and we've been without it. So for us, having this framework, you know, having the government even consider this is going to bring consistency, accountability, and really validate what the good agents are already doing. Right? This isn't going to hammer those good agents because they're already doing this stuff. So this just really is putting into legislation what is already the practice.
Okay, well, you referenced it, and I did mention it in the opening monologue, but BC has had this in place for 30 years. Okay, in Ontario, not at all. Is there a reason? Is there a conspiracy theory? Did it just get hidden in some filing cabinet that no one looked at?
It happened to be at the very same time the X-Files was out. I don't know what happened.
Right. That makes sense to me.
To that personally, I'm wondering if Alistair might have some intel on that, because I think he might be the person to tap for that.
You know, I mean, you're not far wrong there, Victoria.
Oh,
you know,
hello.
30 years ago, BC was absolutely Hollywood North, right? That's where Hollywood was next exploring. And with exploration and with a boom in an industry, becomes a whole lot of individuals who suddenly hang out a shingle and call themselves talent agents. And the government at the time in British Columbia just recognized the fact that maybe not everybody should be able to do that. And maybe there needed to be some form of controls put in place, just a framework that was put in place. And they did a consultation process with the industry at the time. You know, and when things are great, this doesn't come up. But it's every once in a while these things started to bubble up, and it has happened in the past, and we just want to stop it from being able to happen again.
Okay, so do we now? I mean, maybe this is a dumb question. I get to be the dumb guy in the panel, though, right? So let's say, okay, so the agents get licensed now in Ontario, and does that prevent any tragedies from happening? Like, how is that going to improve the way things actually are now?
So I'll give you just a little bit of the framework of it. So right now, as I mentioned, anyone can hang out a shingle. In British Columbia, for sure, there are still going to be some agents that work sort of under the radar, right? Yeah, you can probably remember as a child going to a mall and seeing somebody who had set up a little booth and, hey, you've got a great look about you. Come on over here. Why don't we sign you up? Here's some $1,500 headshots that you need to get, right? Those sorts of things, this helps to clamp down on that. Again, this doesn't change anything for the legitimate agents. Doesn't change a thing. Really, TAMAC, which is the Talent Agent Management Association of Canada, they already have these rules in place, right? They've got their code of conduct, but it's voluntary. And so what this does is it actually takes the good stuff that the great agents already do and just codifies it, just puts it into a place where there's potential for enforcement. And that's what keeps the sort of the bad apples away, is that potential enforcement that could find them. Are people still going to try it? Absolutely. But this gives us and gives performers the ability to say, hey, cool, you're licensed. What's your license number? And suddenly there needs to be an answer.
Victoria, Asante?
I remember those little mall setups.
Yeah, I think I would only add
yeah, no.
Please go ahead.
Go ahead, by all means.
Oh, I was just going to add to that I think there's that piece that I would expect would hopefully be more closely monitored. So that piece when actors, when talent in general is joining an agency, and there's that agreement, that contract that a lot of people sign when they first get to an agency. And I think in terms of what Alistair's points are around, people that are already in good practices, those are already meant to protect both the agent and the talent. And that's always worked that way for years. But there's that little peace of mind when you're a new member of someone's roster and you're joining and you have this massive document with a lot of legalese in it. And I think, you know, to Bobby's question, if you've got certain registration and legislation that governs what can be in that document, that is a fair practice. It's just that extra peace of mind that performers can sign on that dotted line and actually sleep well that night, as opposed to forking out for a lawyer to actually go through it with them and everything else that goes with that initial contract.
Yeah, okay. I think you were going to jump in there, Asante.
Yeah, no, I think that such a key piece to all of this is it's the transparency. I think one of the biggest hurdles that I've had to overcome as an actor is just trying to make sense of all the fine print that's actually involved with this work, right? Especially when you start to work with big contracts, or you start to like work with agents and potentially multiple agents. You know, you could have a voice agent, you could have a principal agent, you could have background agents, all this stuff, and ultimately, the more that we know as actors, the more that we understand, the more that we're able to approach them. If there is a license in place, if there's some of this paperwork and regulation in place, the more that we're able to just confidently approach our colleagues, as I would say, and to be able to ask for these things, to be able to ask the pertinent questions, the better off we are.
And Bobby, I think, really for the agencies that already operate professionally, we're not going to see much change in the day-to-day practice here, right? What this does do is it creates an absolute level playing field across the industry that will set those minimum standards and some maximum levels as well.
Right. And so, Alice, you had mentioned enforcement, which I thought was interesting. So what do you mean by that? Is it a bit of an honor system? If somebody behaves badly, they get a slap on the wrist, but now there's more of like a legal precedent? Like, can you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah. So if you look at the TAMAC Code of Conduct, if you fail to follow that sort of gold standard, the enforcement that they have is they can expel you from being a TAMAC member, and you just no longer get to call yourself a TAMAC member. That doesn't stop you from misbehaving. It doesn't stop you from continuing to do, bad things. What this does, British Columbia, as an example, agencies, they have to hold a license, they must use trust accounts, and they have some pretty strict timelines in distributing performer earnings. And when they don't do those sorts of things, then there are some financial repercussions that can occur with a sort of government watchdog. There is someone to complain to. And that's what performers are missing right now. Be them union, be them non-union. They don't have anyone to, other than you go to the Better Business Bureau. In worst case scenario, you can go to the police. But at this point now, with putting legislation in place and putting regulations in place, there will be oversight. And that's sort of the teeth that a voluntary code of conduct misses out on.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the consultation process here, because obviously there's 3 actual representatives here, which is very exciting for us. But that shows me that Actra takes this very seriously. So I naturally have questions about the consultation process. So is Actra I imagine Actra's being consulted, different unions, like how is this all working? Like, how are they getting the intel from our industry in order to apply it to the licensing process?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm talking a lot, but I will hand this over, I promise.
This is definitely you and ALISTAIR, so you can take it here.
So they are shooting this far and wide across the industry, and are leveraging the individual players in the industry to find others as well. So the unions and guilds that, folks that you wouldn't consider who have agents, such as the DGC, the WGC, IATSE, NABET. Folks within all of those unions have agents, right? Directors have agents, writers have agents, costume designers have agents. And so they're all contributing to this as well. The government is also having a couple of roundtable sessions with a performer group, with TAMAC themselves, with the EIC, who we haven't talked about yet, the Entertainment Industry Coalition, who also have their own code of conduct as well. All of those groups are being consulted. And they actually extended the consultation program due date from August 22nd to September 22nd to allow for more voices to be heard. They want to make sure they hear from everybody. They want to make sure they hear the individual stories, good, bad, otherwise. The government wants to hear them so that they can ensure that they make an informed decision on this and can, with all integrity, say they have heard from this industry as a whole.
Okay, so look, I want to get into the performer's perspective for all of this,
Yes.
but before that, is this an opportunity to solicit opinions? I mean, there's people watching, there's Actra members, there's actors, there's all kinds of people watching, talent agents, casting directors. Like, what should people do if they want to have their voice heard as part of this consultation process?
Yeah, and anyone can take part in this, right? That's the great part about this. On the Ministry of Labour website for the Government of Ontario, they actually have a link to all of their ongoing consultations. You just need to find the right one. I'm sure eBoss can help us out here, and when this video gets posted for replays, they can put a link to that directly there. But it really is, if you have anything to do with this industry, they want to hear from you. Don't be shy. Please respond. Again, good, bad, indifferent. They want to hear from you.
And
Okay,
Bobby, to that point, if I can add to ALISTAIR's great points and give him a break from talking for 2 seconds, because he's been such a great resource. But I would just share that if I was, in a position to actually direct where the consultation was happening, because I know that ALISTAIR and his team at Actra Toronto, in terms of the staff members, have been really great at circulating that consultation request to actual membership. So we've definitely been asked to give our 2 cents, which is wonderful. But I would think that ideally some agents out there with some rock solid business practices can be tapped for their input in a big way. Agents are such a resource in this discussion, and I think their practices can definitely be used. Those ones that are being reputable and just the superstars of the industry, they can be used as a model for how to operate. And I would really hope to mine their group efforts when it comes to how they do things. I would want that consultation to learn about what should be included in a license from tenured agents so that they can be the ones to go, okay, this is what I do. This is what I would hope everyone does, that sort of thing. And I really hope that as this process moves along, that everyone is working together for the better good of everyone working in the industry as well, because I think agents will hopefully also be served by this legislation, because as ALISTAIR and other people have pointed out, this is to level the playing field, to make sure that best practices are a given rather than a request.
Okay, so Asante and Victoria, I mean, you're both performers. ALISTAIR, I presume you're not a performer, although you could be. You
God
should
bless.
be.
Well, there was a day.
Marlon
There was a
Brando
day.
2.0 here, geez. But okay, so looks like this licensing is about to happen. So Asante and Victoria, how do you feel about that as performers? Do you have like a sense of relief? Are there concerns? Like, what does that do for you if this all happens?
I mean, for me, it's just like, it's the kind of like the culmination of so many years of trying to kind of navigate this industry, coming to a place that we can feel really good about, right? Like, I mean, I moved to Toronto a little under 2 decades ago, and never have I seen anything like this. I've very rarely been asked as an actor, what do you think? How should things go? All right. Oftentimes we're just told how it should go, and we accept. So I can't stress enough just how important it is that we do all get our voices heard on this, from all lots. Yeah, I see it also applies to stage actors, but everyone who's involved as a performer, it's so vital to hear, because this is really unprecedented. And over those years, I've had both the pleasure and the misfortune of working with representatives who have been incredible on the one hand, but also incredibly devious. And I have been victim to some pretty unfair and questionable practices, which really, it stalls your career. And I've talked to actors who've left the industry because of such things. And to be in a position now to see that change happen, just makes it all worthwhile. It gets me fired up about being an actor again, about saying like, hey, we actually do have a voice. And this is more than just what we do on screen or on stage, but what we can do as entrepreneurs, as professionals, and representatives for one another. I think that's really special.
So, okay, when you're talking about these sort of mischievous things, are you talking about from an agent's perspective? Like who has been doing these things? Can you post their email?
No, listen, I'm not here to blacklist anybody or call anyone out. I would just say in general, like I have been in situations where I've had to go after an agent for money, only to be told an absolute ridiculous string of lies that were quite frankly insulting to me as just a human, as an intelligent human being, and to work so hard to get to a certain place in this industry. We all know how difficult it is as artists in the first place to even get a taste of some form of success, and then to only have your hard-earned dollars withheld from you because someone else is being selfish, because someone else has no respect for your integrity as a professional. It is really devastating. Like I said, it led some artists to leave the industry, and to me, that's just utterly unacceptable. So with this in place, I mean, you see how it can change the game. We don't have to just kind of blindly hound and hope for the best. We're no longer beggars in the system. We're actually players.
Yeah, that's powerful. Victoria, what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, thanks, Asante, for sharing those raw words. I know it's the tip of the iceberg for a lot of performers. So, you know, it's a really, it's a big topic. So, you know, to give my personal thoughts on how I feel now that this is a real potential, hopeful in a word. I'm certainly hopeful, but I'm also hopeful that as someone that's filled out government forms in my life and decided to throw them out the window at some point, I'm also hopeful that this is going to be a seamless process for the other side, for the licensees, for the agents themselves, because as much as I'm hopeful as a performer that this is going to cause major change, and I'm also very thankful for the government for moving on this, because Lord knows it's taken a lot of quite literal blood, sweat, and tears from people to get to this place.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you know, jumping through a government hoop for agencies may be a deterrent. And I'm worried a little bit about, I don't want to be worried. I want to be hopeful, but I think just because this is such a new conversation and such an incredibly new licensing process, I would hope that the supports were put in place as seamlessly as possible so that it would guide agents through this process. And just like I'll give ALISTAIR's example of sending us the 411 on what to look for in terms of sharing our consultation thoughts. Just like that exists for performers because of the work that Actra Toronto is doing. I hope that exists for the agents in order to get licensed because they're great agents. You know, I think I want it to be possible for these agents that are already doing great work, and some of them who have been doing great work for decades. They're fantastic agents that might just not be great at filling out government forms. I don't know. It would be a shame if they or even some brand new business folks face challenges to operate with this new thing. So I just really hope that we do this really well and really seamlessly for those folks as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Victoria, I like how delicately you broached that subject. And actually, it is my next question, right? Concerns. So obviously, we all see the potential benefits and, you know, raising the standards for everybody. But are there things we're not considering? Are there drawbacks? Are there concerns about this proposal? Any risks that we should be considering?
Change is scary.
Yeah.
Change is scary. Yeah.
I think for myself, you know, I think it would just be, will the final result truly achieve what we're out to achieve? There have been instances in the past where, you know, change such as this, you know, it's almost done as more of a show, as opposed to really getting down to the nitty gritty and really standing behind what it is positioned to do. So I would just certainly hope that the regulations, the licensing, everything is fully and strongly followed up upon, that this doesn't just become something that looks good on paper and makes certain people look good while the rest of us still struggle. I would hope that it really does give us the protections, give us the leverage, and give us the confidence that it really seems to be positioned to do. So I just, again, I hope it is truly as legitimate as it all looks and sounds so far.
Yeah, I think if I could piggyback on that, the big concern that I have is finding the balance, right? The balance between actual meaningful oversight, that Asante and Victoria have talked about, and ensuring that it doesn't also become an administrative burden, right? And we don't want this to be a barrier. So a licensing system, the one that we're looking for, we don't want something that is so heavy-handed that it creates unnecessary barriers for agencies to continue to operate, to start up operation. But it also should not be so light that it fails to address the real risks that these folks have talked about. The government here is going to have to find that middle ground, and hopefully this consultation process is going to help them do that, so that they can protect performers while remaining completely practical for the agencies themselves, who must continue to operate and do business.
Nods all around. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, find that balance.
Okay. Now, there is an opportunity also to take questions from the audience. I'm not sure if we have any, but if there are questions, you can post your questions in the chat on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and then we will address whatever we can. What about the union and non-union? Does that apply to this?
The great news of this is it covers everybody. That's the thing, right? And that's that everybody's, well, Actra Toronto's at the tip of this, therefore it must only be for union performers. No, this will cover anybody that's a performer. And in fact, if the kind of consultation process happens in the way which we think it's going to happen, it will be agents in this industry, in the stage industry. Anybody that has a talent agent, doesn't have to be acting talent, but anybody that has a talent agent would have this coverage. Union, non-union, doesn't matter.
And to Alistair's point, Bobby, I'm actually going to borrow something that Alistair, you yourself said in one of the earliest council meetings I've ever been to. And I'm sure this is something that you've not just said the one time, but I think you used it in reference to reasons why people should join a union like Actra, but I can use it in this circumstance as well, is if something goes wrong between you and an agent in a business practice, and you are not yet a union member, you can call the non-union office for help. That's not a thing. So at least in this circumstance, union or not, there's checks and balances in place so that at least at the very minimum, good business practices are reinforced.
Yeah, truly, I think that's one of the biggest things that I've heard from my fellow actors, and whether they be union or non-union, is just this, it's this lack of understanding. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? Who do I turn to when this happens? Like, my gosh, the incident that Alistair referred to at the beginning of this session, I mean, those were close personal friends of mine involved with that. And just the sense of they were just entirely disillusioned and just so lost was heartbreaking. They had nowhere to go. They had nothing to lean on. And to be on the precipice of actually achieving something like that it turns things around. And so, yeah, I can't stress just enough how excited I am about it and how important this is. And I think the consultation process is such a great first step. So we've got to hear from people on all sides.
Is this potentially a unifying moment for the Canadian film and television industry? I mean, maybe that sounds a bit Pollyanna, but it's just like it's been so challenging, especially in the last couple of years. And I found people get more antagonistic. But now we're really talking about creating an industry where as many people as possible are protected. Like, that's kind of what this is about, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a rallying point, right? This is a moment in time that will allow the industry to move ahead. You know, the lovely metaphor of a rising tide raising all boats. That's what this is, right? Everybody, those who've had trouble with agents in the past, those who've been unable to find what we would deem as, you know, a major reputable agent, you know, this is going to allow those reputable agents to shine. That's what this is going. It's going to give them. It's going to cut away the noise and really give us all a sense of, you know, comfort and knowledge that you are in good hands. You are protected. And again, I keep coming back to TAMAC and their code of conduct. It really is that gold standard, right? And if we could just get everybody to follow that and agree to it and just do it, we'd be laughing. We wouldn't have to have this conversation. But the fact that we have to have this conversation means that we're not quite there. We haven't fixed it. So here's our chance, here's our opportunity, and here's this moment, as you say, for this industry to really kind of come together. And then hopefully once Ontario has this in place, then the other provinces, you know, between us and British Columbia and then to the east of us can actually look at this and go, well, okay, we really need to raise our game here. You know, because this also provides protection to studios that are coming from outside of Canada to know that the money that they're paying, the money that they're giving out is actually going to make it into the hands of the people that actually earned it. And that's a big concern, right? The last thing you want to do is be a big studio and realize that the money you've paid has not actually made it to the person that did the work. And now what do? Are you on the hook for it as the studio? And this will solve that question, right? It takes away that hesitation, that doubt, provides the stability that this industry loves. This industry loves stability. Well, here it is. Here's a chance to provide it.
Yeah, and to build on Alistair's point, and Bobby, to your point about unification in the industry, I want very much to believe that too. And I think, you know, Alistair brought up the idea that this is better for studios, and I couldn't agree more, because truly, if you are a production company and you have paid a performer through their agent and you expect it to go to that performer, and you get a call months and months later from said performer that they haven't been paid, then what the heck happens then, right? And we've seen the hard circumstances that come from that. So I would think that would allow, therefore, the producers and the folks on that side of things to see this as a more attractive market to come and make their films, make their TV shows, because there's less of guesswork. They can actually just focus on the content and focus on the creation part, and just that little bit less on the business practices and hoping for the best in terms of those.
Yeah. I would just like to add, not only is it a unifier, but I think it sets a beautiful precedent. I think this says that, yes, we as performers, we do have rights, that we deserve protections, and that it could potentially lead to more down the road. You know, obviously, since we're all doing quotes today, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And so maybe this is just a single step in a journey that, you know, brings that dignity back to us as artists. You know, it's like, maybe we can do away with terms like starving artist and romanticizing stuff like this. Like, no, we can be legitimate, you know, self-made business people with rights, with protections, with an understanding of the contracts and the ins and outs that we work with. You know, that would be awesome. That would be such an incredible move for all of us artists.
It's interesting, Asante, as you speak, because I realize there's like a new optimism being infused into this conversation that maybe people have been missing. Now, okay, there was a comment on the screen. I'd love to read it. Okay, it's from Thomas Kim. Now, if this is greenlit, when could we possibly see this enacted / enforced? So I guess we're talking about Ontario licensing their agents. What's the timeline? What are we looking at here?
Yeah. So, you know, one of the great things they say about government is the government moves at the speed of government. And, you know, but what we've seen with this government, with this sitting government, is once they put pen to paper on something, you know, it moves pretty quickly. I would suggest, you know, a standard getting something enacted, getting legislation in place is typically a 10-year process, right? Actra has firsthand experience at this when it comes to the Protecting Child Performer Act. From first introduction to final pass, that was a 10-year process. This process is, from initial conversation with the government to where we are today has been 2 years. And from where we are today until enactment is probably between 8 months and a year, which is like lightning speed. This is do up your seatbelt, buckle in, because we are moving at an incredible pace here. But this government is serious about this, right? The Minister of Labor, Minister David Piccini, was appalled when he discovered what had gone on in the case I spoke of off the top. And for him, he couldn't make this happen fast enough. This consultation process with an initial window of 30 days that has been expanded to 60 days is a very fast consultation process in terms of this government. This is a very fast consultation process because they are very serious about this. And they don't put something out to consultation unless it's actually, moving forward. So, I would say we're having this conversation a year from now. This is in place. This is in place, and this is now being enforced.
Okay, and do we think this is happening? Like, I mean, I don't want to do like 85% or 65%. Where are we at? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, this government is very serious about things that they've done. Anything that has appeared in the Working for Workers Act, and this is number 7 for this government, has made it through and is now enforced. So, this would be a remarkable outlier if it didn't actually come to fruition. Now, what level it's going to land at, because if you've seen the consultation paper, they ask a lot of questions, and it's what things are they going to put into the legislation, I think, is going to be the interesting point. Do I think there's legislation? 100%. I think that's a 100%. Do I know what every single item in that legislation is going to say or what the regulations are going to be? I don't. That one I don't know. And that's, I think, going to be the next interesting phase of this is what are the line by line regulations? Because the legislation really is sort of the, it's the big playbook, right? It's the overarching statement that says this is now a thing. And the regulations are where we actually get into the details. It's where we actually go line by line to discover what will be in it. They're looking at the bones of British Columbia. They're looking at the gold standard that TAMAC has in place. They have an excellent playbook in front of them. So now they just need to make the decision on what things are going to be in the Ontario playbook.
So this is very encouraging. It just sounds like, okay, so it's going to happen. We're just really what we're doing is just defining the terms. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, again, this government and specifically the Minister of Labor has been a massive champion for this industry. He understands the value that this industry brings. Right, the Premier of Ontario talks about moving this industry from a $3 billion a year industry to a $5 billion a year industry. Well, the way you do that is providing stability. And the way you provide stability is to ensure that this is a great place to work, and that's why this Working for Workers Act is in place, and that's why this consultation is happening. I think, again, I can only rely on the amazing word of the Minister of Labor, who says that he wants to see this through, and I'm going to hold him to that word, right? I believe him. He looked me in the eyes and said it, so I'm going to hold him to it.
Well, if he looked you in the eyes, it's done.
That's it.
I guess it's Alistair Hepburn. You not look him in the eyes and lie.
You can't.
Oh, we got another question from Debbie McGuinn. Does this open the government to also monitor unions and associations that receive performers' money before sending to talent agencies, and how things are handled within the entire industry? Ooh.
Yeah. So this one focuses on the regulatory aspects of talent agencies. A union is, as an entity, as a union within the government, within the province of Ontario, has its own set of rules that it must follow. I think monies that Debbie might be talking about there are, for example, come from commercials, right? Callback checks for commercials. Those come to the union, but it's a pass through at the union. But we do have rules that we must follow. We have our own bylaws and constitution in place that we must follow as well. But this specific set of regulations is focused on talent agents.
And in addition to Alistair's points there, I mean, there's also the OLRB, which is a body that's literally their foundation is to make sure that unions are abiding by best practices. So if there was something that people were concerned about with any union, Actra included, there is a body for people to go and make those concerns.
Yeah, there's already oversight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're good. Everything is good. We're okay. But again, if you're at home, you're watching this, and you have questions, post your questions in the chat. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Want to know what ASANTE is cooking? I do. Ask it in the chat. Jennifer Wigmore. One of the concerns I have is whether Actra Toronto was pushing for production to pay actors directly, and then actors pay their agents. This would be a significant change to performers. What do we think?
So it's not an ask of ours. But the great news for performers is they get to make that decision for themselves, right? And that's sort of the empowerment that this will also help bring. Again, they're going to sign a contract with their agent and they're going to make the decisions with their agent. But right now, a performer has the option to send the money to the agent or to have the money come to them and they turn around and pay the agent. Again, that would be a negotiation. That would be a contractual negotiation between the performer and their agent. But it would not necessarily, I don't believe, be prescribed in this regulation. Not one of the questions that the government is asking. They're asking about timelines for payments. They're asking about maximum percentage fees paid to agents. That's the sort of thing that they're interested in. They're not looking to interfere with the relationship between the performer and their agent.
But to Jennifer's point as well, Bobby, there is precedent for that current pipeline of money to go directly to the actor before the union. So I can give the example of most background agents that work with Actra members actually encourage the Actra member to put their home address on the voucher to get paid first, and then they pay back the commission to the agency after the fact. So there certainly is precedent for this, for that action, for that pipeline. But to Alistair's point, that's not a specific ask within this, but it's a really fair question, Jennifer.
Yeah, and just to kind of tag onto all of that, I would say that, while it's not a specific ask, I think, and I see where Jennifer's coming from because I've often toyed with this idea myself. I think it certainly would, again, it would empower us, as artists, now thinking of ourselves more as an entrepreneur, to have that conversation with our talent agents. Because I think in the past, I've been maybe a little bit afraid for fear that, maybe then they won't sign me, or maybe they won't do, work for me because I've asked for this stipulation. But I think with these, with this movement of increased regulations of licensing and all this and legitimizing things, it really could give us a little bit more solid ground to stand on to say, no, I want the checks to come directly to me. You trust me to get that money to you now. Like, this is my business. This is my money. I'll handle it. So I hope that's the case.
There's another proposal on the table. I like it. Other people find it controversial. And it's to give Bobby Del Rio all the money that you earn, and he will promise
this one
to then give it to your agent or your grandma, wherever you want. But give it to him first. I trust that guy. Okay. Oh, Debbie McGuinn, we've got another question here. The next step should be, just like the UK and the USA, that the government will implement payment services and production companies take taxes at source before performers get paid. Debbie McGuinn, way smarter than I am. What is the answer to this question? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one. Again, a lot of that has to do with how performers are considered in the workforce. As dependent contractors, we need to ensure that performers from coast to coast under the CRA regulations, and this is a provincial regulation we're talking about, but CRA being federal, we'd need to look at a federal package that would definitely look at performers as workers, and by every matter of that definition, what that means. Right now, we are in the world of they are workers, but they are also dependent contractors, and taking taxes off of dependent contractors slightly becomes difficult. It's not enforced in every jurisdiction in the USA. That's for certain. I'm a little less familiar with what they do in the UK in terms of how the government takes money, but I think that's a completely valid point that hopefully would be the next step. But again, I think we need to level the playing field across the country here and focus on talent regulations so that no matter which jurisdiction any of these performers work in, they know that they're going to have that protection, right? It doesn't matter whether you're in Ontario, whether you're in Saskatchewan, whether you're in New Brunswick, that the protection exists for you. So hopefully this is the start of something beautiful across this country where other jurisdictions take this up and run with it because they're going to have a perfect template to work from.
If you're sitting at home and you're thinking, this chat is lighting up, do I want to be part of it? Yeah, you do. Post your question. Okay, Crystal Maloney. Yeah, so much participation today. A lot more needs to be done to make sure productions pay on time. Why are they still doing checks? Actra members are supposed to put their own address now already. Why is EP not doing the direct deposits when we were asked to give them that info? Agents sometimes get upset if we can't pay them commission when we haven't received our payments from a production. Crystal Maloney, just bringing it. What do you think about this?
All right. You want me to take this one, gang?
Well, I'll just chime in to say I totally feel Crystal's burn there, because I absolutely remember that day that I put in all of my direct deposit info, and it's just been sitting there as a stale pipeline. So I'm actually curious myself as to how that would transpire. I'm not necessarily sure that the direct deposit would be something that is sort of intertwined in what we're talking about today, but it is still a very valid topic. And Alistair, I'm happy to hear you direct this one as well.
No, you've nailed it. So while slightly outside of this topic, not all productions actually use EP, right? So EP we're talking about is Entertainment Partners. Just for those that may have never heard of it, Entertainment Partners Canada is a payroll service. They are a payroll service that gets hired by productions. There are other payroll services as well. Cast and Crew is also a payroll service that gets hired by productions to deal with their payrolls. If you want direct deposit through EP, then you just have to indicate that that's what you want. Full stop, period. And if they use EP and you have indicated direct deposit, then that's great. We have absolutely heard of some agents that are not interested in having their clients have direct deposit. But again, slightly outside of what we're talking about today. And that's what these regulations won't touch that. And again, that's going to become sort of that contractual negotiation between a performer and their agent. But hopefully the legislation and regulations will remove some of the other concerns to allow you to focus on things like direct deposit and whether you want that or not. A lot of productions would love to get away from checks. They would love it. They would absolutely love it. And I think the industry is definitely catching up to that now.
It's been 48 minutes and 38 seconds, 39, 40. I know you have questions. I know you want to type them. You're typing, you're deleting, Louise Granahan. I'm probably butchering every single name. It's fine. I agree 100%. Louise agrees 100%. This is a big issue, especially when we had the postal disruptions running all around the city and beyond sometimes to pick up checks. Is redonkulous. She said ridiculous. I made it redonkulous because it is. Crystal Maloney is back again. It is valid in the fact that agents get upset for us not paying our commission. The chat's on fire. What do we think?
Absolutely. Look, and one of the great things about these regulations is that it's going to put in some controls regarding the commissions, especially what those percentages are, because we hear a lot from performers that if they happen to be an apprentice Actra member, that they might pay more commission than a full member does. And, this will help to curtail that, which is kind of ideal, right? It again, levels the playing field. Completely hear Louise, especially trying to run around the city to pick up checks is not ideal. Moving towards direct deposit, digital money is so good. It makes life a whole lot easier. And that's the goal here is to move this industry boldly into at least 1997. That's our goal.
It's a great year. Bobby, if I can just chime in for 2 seconds too, because I first want to say hi, Louise. I totally hear you. I had to schlep into South Etobicoke myself for a couple of them. But then, ALISTAIR, I think the question that just popped up is something that I'm actually curious to tap you for. Bobby, I'm sorry to sort of take the virtual mic from you for a second.
Take it. It's yours.
But I think the thing that people are focusing on right now, digital payments and such, these are all really important topics. But I think the thing that we want to be sure that people really, truly understand is the difference in the business practices. So I think the question that just popped up specifically had to do with what would be required of these agents, what would be different. And I'm wondering, ALISTAIR, if you might just be able to sort of pull apart the idea of a trust and how that plays into this conversation, what that trust means in terms of the financial trust that an agency would have to have in order to protect the funds. If you could just unpack that a little bit for folks, because I'm still getting my head around what this means.
Yeah, the joy of the trust account. So one of the big asks that we came in with, welcome back, Asante. One of the big asks that we came in with was the ask for a trust account. And that trust account means that money that comes into the agency can't be used for anything else other than to pay the performers. So it means that the money doesn't get commingled. It can't be used for business expenses. It sits there and it cannot be brought into the agency itself. The only thing it can do is be a repository and then paid out to the performers that are on the roster of the agent. So that is sort of the biggest nut on all of this, is having that trust account, having that ability to not commingle funds. Huge, huge, huge. Slightly clear? Is that helpful? Yes?
It certainly is. And if I can just talk through it on my own, just, from my understanding of it. So there are agencies that don't have that practice. And
Absolutely.
what they could do in theory is, and correct me if I'm off base here, but if I'm an agency and someone just has a big check and it comes in and, oh, shoot, my rent is due for my office space, but I don't have to pay that talent for another, say, 14 days, 21 days, whatever that timeline is for that specific person. I'm just going to go ahead and put some of that on my rent. And then I'm going to hope that I get another check in order to pay that performer before that comes up.
That is entirely possible in a situation where the agent doesn't have a trust account. Yes, 100%.
So scary. Yes.
And not only would the trust account be in place, but then also the timeline for payment. How long can the agent actually hold on to the money before it must be paid out to the performer?
Yeah.
It's another one of the key components of what the government's looking at.
Yeah, I'd say that was exactly my experience that I was talking about before, is this endless stream of lies to delay payment, right? Because that money was being used for other things, which unfortunately I found out about later, but that was it. And I mean, having really set guidelines on how long it is between payments. You work any other job, it's 2 weeks, right? I've waited months sometimes for checks. We all have. We've all been there, waiting on that check. And especially when we don't work as consistently as other professions, that becomes a big deal. That is our ability to pay rent. That is our ability to, pay bills, this, that, and the other thing. So, knowing when that check is going to come in is pretty important, because I can tell you this, my landlord's not going to wait around for my agent to finally decide to pay me.
If you owe Asante money, pay the man.
That's right. Talk to my landlord. Talk to my landlord.
This is a good guy. Pay him. Okay, we had another question. In the chat from Instagram. Hold on. We got one from Facebook from Jamie Hill. Is 15% for agents the new norm?
I wish there was a norm. I think that's part of the problem is, right now it could be 10, it could be 12, it could be 15, it could be 20. And we want to just put a cap on that we do have an interest in seeing that there be a maximum for sure.
Yeah. And to ALISTAIR's point there, and it also, something was mentioned earlier about apprentice members and a lot of background agencies are actually paying a 5% premium on every commission check sent back to their agent as well. So it just kind of shows that regulation currently doesn't exist. So, theater work is 1% versus print work is 1% versus principal work is 1%. And whether you're a full member or an apprentice member, sometimes it's slightly different depending on the category of work you're doing. So all of these things would hopefully be shored up with additional regulation towards it. I personally, my brain starts spinning with all of these numbers that don't make sense. I'm someone that likes things very streamlined. Anyone out there that knows me, hi, guilty. So just having that sort of regulated would, I think, take the guesswork out of a lot of this type of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let me clarify that point then for everyone. Does that mean if Ontario talent agents are licensed, we're standardizing commission? Is that on the table?
No, it's about putting a maximum in place. What would the maximum amount of commission be available? That's what's on the table here. That's what the question that the government is asking. They're not looking to tell an agent, this is the only number you can charge, but they are looking to put a cap on it.
Okay, so right now there's no cap.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this is why I pay my agent 150%. It's like every time
That's the problem. Yes.
I pay the whole rate,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I got to come up with another 50%.
Is your agent named Bobby Del Rio? Because
He is. He's the
Yeah.
best. I love that guy. Sorry, Asante, you were going to jump in.
No, I was going to say, like, my understanding, and it has been for some time, is that kind of the norm, as it were, is 15% for principal work, 10% for theater. This is union, full union. And then it was 20% for print or that kind of thing. But I've heard of all kinds of, wild numbers being thrown out there. So I agree. Regulating that, standardizing that, again, it gives us a better understanding as artists where we stand, what we should be doling out, and how our interaction goes with our agent, which is so crucial.
Okay, we've been trying to ask this question from Instagram and posted several times. It's from a Castro. It's a Castro, but I in my mind it's just a Castro. I'm like, where are the other Castros? But okay, a Castro. What would the criteria be for a person to be a representative? Any thoughts? So I guess
Yes.
wants to
One
be.
of the things that I was adding to that discussion was that thing of the trust. That's why I was really looking to ALISTAIR to explain that, because I think my understanding, ALISTAIR, and please feel free to redirect, is that would be a requirement of agents going forward to be licensed.
Yeah, I mean, the initial and big ask from Actra Toronto was to install trust accounts, and the government decided that they wanted to go perhaps farther than that when they started looking at British Columbia, when they started looking at the that TAMAC code of conduct. And so, right now, hopefully it's going to be trust accounts. You must have a trust account in order to be considered a licensed agent. You must hopefully follow some strict timelines for distributing performer earnings. That is hopefully going to be one of the ones that gets put in there. And then it will be being able to prove that to the government potentially on a yearly basis in order to renew your license on a yearly basis.
Here's a graphic. If you're the kind of person like me who can't read, but you love pictures, here it is. You got a big check. This is the agent deposits check into a trust account. Little pictograph for you. There's a check. It's made out to an actor. It's a very large check. There's an arrow. Goes to the trust account. It looks kind of like a bank, but it's not. It's a trust account. And then there's another arrow to the commission's deducted. It's a piece of paper, and there's the money. There's a giant pencil. And then another arrow, and that is the balance to be released to the talent. But they only have a head. They don't have a body, but it's fine. They're going to get their money. Okay? So if you didn't understand any of this whole thing, look at that graphic, and you will be even more confused. Do we have more questions from the audience?
I'd just like to add to that too. I think the TAMAC standards are really, really a great place to start. And as ALISTAIR mentioned, they're already there. So it makes it super easy. It's a very easy transition to start from that code of conduct as far as what it takes to be licensed as a representative. I mean, I know the difference between a non-TAMAC agent and a TAMAC agent. And now if anyone asks me, I don't hesitate. Go TAMAC. Don't even think about anything else. Go TAMAC. Now, if that was universal, we'd be sitting pretty.
Okay, so for anyone who doesn't understand, maybe there's parents here or somebody wants to be an actor and they're going, oh my God, there's no standards. What the hell? These licenses have to come in place. There are some standards through TAMAC and EIC, right? Can we just explain what those are to people who don't know what they mean at all?
Before you jump in, I actually want to sort of share from sort of the artist perspective as someone that, you know, is coming into the industry, what I can digest from that question, what I can sort of approach as the user, so to speak, approaching that before Alistair can talk about more the nuts and bolts of what goes into those criteria, is there's newer actors, either younger actors or newer to the industry, that come into the apprentice caucus that I have the privilege of chatting with. And the question is often, if they don't yet have a principal agent, where do I even begin? How do I start? And the answer is almost always either go to the EIC, the Entertainment Industry Coalitions. They have a list of agencies that have signed on to this specific list of criteria to be on it. I'll let Alistair speak to what those specifically are. But then additionally, there is the TAMAC, which is a little bit, my understanding as the user, sort of the end user, is that it's even more curated, even more stringent with who qualifies for that. So that's always the starting place that we recommend for people to go. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if an agency isn't on those lists, that they're out to get you. Please don't misunderstand. It just so happens that the people that are on those lists took the steps, went through the hoops, and got to be on that signatory group of people, group of organizations to sort of be public facing, to say, I agree to these things and I'm here to put that forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Alistair, so can you give us a definition for TAMAC and EIC? Victoria is really good she gives a performer's perspective. We understand. But give us the nuts and bolts.
Yeah. So I mean, again, and hopefully on the back end of this, you'll be able to help share some links to folks so that they can read this for themselves. But both the EIC and TAMAC have their code of ethical conduct, right? It's really how they govern themselves, how they choose to operate. All TAMAC agents are members of the EIC. Not all EIC agents are members of TAMAC. Clear as mud. Mm-hmm. But each of them have their own separate code of conduct as to voluntary, as to how they will operate. And really it is their guiding principles. It is their North Star, but again, it is voluntary. So that's where sort of the one sort of thing that we would love to see helped out is to ensure that there was actually some teeth there. But it's, I think Asante's talked about it, Victoria's talked about it, that both the EIC and TAMAC having these codes of conduct already move us in the right direction. So now we just want to put into practice what they've already laid out in front of us.
This is great. Okay, I think we're going to start wrapping things up, but I know that people are thirsty for this chat. People are like, I got to get my question in. I need to know this. You have 3 actual representatives here giving you their time. Of course, it's Debbie McGuinn. Of course, she is ready to go, as always. If all the talent have a relationship with their roster, that talent receives their money directly and then pay their agent/manager. Does the agent need a trust account to be licensed?
It's a great question. That's a really great question, because that, I guess,
very insightful,
takes out the middleman. But I think I'm going to be having Alistair speak on this in a second, because he's definitely a resource to go to that. But I think it's because there's been the unfortunate practices of few that have caused it to be such that is hopefully the standard that all agencies would put in place, simply to take out the guesswork of potential ballets. As much as that would be the ideal, to just get it direct and send it back, I think just out of an absence of complete agreement with it and abundance of caution, that might have to be the way. But Alistair, I'm happy to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is always the possibility that a production misdirects the funds to the agent instead of the performer, right? That's always a possibility. And having that trust account there allows the agent to actually deal with that money and on a just in case. So it really is it would be, I would suggest, the backbone of this regulation. First and foremost, having that trust account so that monies can never, ever be commingled. Business money versus client money can never be wrapped up together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it just makes sense to just make, clean sweep across the board. All agents just need to have that trust account, because you never know what kind of, random outlying, circumstances might arise. And this way, it does. Level playing field, keeps it standard. All actors know exactly how their money is flowing. Like, that's, again, one of the biggest questions I'm asked, or that I have for myself. Where's my money at? So this way, it's a simple answer.
The commingling issue is a big issue. And as someone, I hosted 40 episodes of television about cryptocurrency. So if anyone doesn't know anything about crypto, and you know the name Sam Bankman-Fried, who's now in prison,
yes,
it's because that's what he did. He was commingling the funds. He took money from here and he mixed it with here, and he paid off this, and then he got screwed, and all these people lost their money, right? So these are very, very real issues that affect people. And if you have very real questions that you want to ask before we close this, you want to get in that chat. You want to type it. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, you're on YouTube, you want to get there pretty soon and find out what Alistair's cooking. Oh, okay. Jamie Hill, thank you for being here to answer our questions. Oh, well, that's nice. That's nice.
You're most welcome.
Bobby, while we're waiting for people to put things in, one of the great aspects of this is that this is a great labor, rallying point. And speaking of labor, coming up is Labor Day, and on Monday we will be Actra Toronto will be marching in the Labor Day parade. Whether you're a member, whether you're not a member, urge you to come out and join us. It's a good time. It's a good show of unity, and it really is about labor coming together to make change. Somebody in a new member meeting described it today as having your own hammer, one little hammer banging away on a nail, versus having 1,000 hammers, and how quickly you can make change with 1,000 hammers. So don't bring a hammer to the Labor Day parade. Bad metaphor, but please join us at the Labor Day parade on Monday.
If you bring a hammer, you will be thrown out of that parade, okay? Don't bring a hammer. Also, Alistair, Victoria, do you have anything coming up you want to plug?
I just wanted to share that I'm looking ahead like a good little girl guide, and it's going to be 23 degrees and sunny on Monday. So I think that's a great excuse, if anything, to come out and enjoy that late summer Labor Day parade.
Come on out.
For sure. Plus, we're actors, so we're kind of known as having one of the more boisterous groups in the parade. We tend to come up with fun little chants, and it's a good time.
Parade. Asante will cook you things if you come to the parade.
Listen, I'll bring the food. You just bring your voice. Yeah.
It happens. We'll make it happen. Okay. If there are no further questions, I want to thank our panel. You're awesome. I'm also going to give you an opportunity to wrap up one at a time. Final thoughts, and I'm going to close us out. This has been awesome. Hold on. But before, I try to close out, and the chat's on fire again. Crystal Maloney. Maybe it's Mallory. I can't really tell.
Mallory.
It's Mallory.
Mallory. Oh, my God. What's wrong with me? Crystal Mallory, will you work to push for standardized commission?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Again, not in this round, but I think the will of the membership of Actra, if this is something that they are interested in, is absolutely a conversation we'd be willing to have with them and our friends at both TAMAC and the EIC to see what their thoughts are. This is we are one big entity here, right? We all exist together in this. So this is about ensuring that all of those moving parts work together and find the harmonious way of working forward.
Look at Alistair with all the questions. Yeah. You should run Actra or something.
I'll consider it.
Also, if I butchered your name on the chat, it's because I'm shooting on my iPhone, and the name is like this, and I'm trying to figure it out, but I make mistakes. I'm only a man. Okay, Adam Bennett Films, part 1 of 2. Oh wow, geez, people are just really, really into this. Okay, part 1 or 2. I don't know. Could the legislation cover aspects of the performer/agent relationship that are not payment related? For instance, submission, transparency.
Again, not in this round. This is definitely about finances. That's really what this particular push is about finances. But I think, you know, doing some education around that with performers, and having a very clear and transparent contract with your agent is key to part of that, for sure.
Yeah. I would say, you know, with all of this, especially such great questions that are coming up and stuff that I promise you, so many of us actors have thought about ourselves. I would say this, I would say use this, what we're working on right now, while it's limited to kind of the finances and such, use it as that stepping point, use it as that precedent to start opening up these conversations with your agent, because once this stuff is in place, you know, I think those conversations are going to come a lot easier. We're going to start looking at that relationship as, you know, a more free-flowing, a more balanced business relationship where it's perfectly fine. In fact, it's encouraged that we actors ask these questions. So I would say hang on to those. And when this thing does go through, and I say that with confidence, when this thing does go through, start bringing them up. Maybe that's the next stage of this journey.
And then we're going to do another panel, and we're going to talk about, oh my God, it's here. It's so exciting. What do we do next? Okay, part 2 of 2. Got it. Adam Bennett. Is it Burnett? Can somebody help me? Bennett. I think it's Bennett. Yeah. Adam Bennett Films. Part 2. Most actors don't feel comfortable enough.
Burnett.
Of course it is. Burnett. Most actors don't feel comfortable enough to ever ask for a submissions log. Perhaps instead of needing to be requested, it should instead be standard. Oh.
Excellent point.
Well.
Excellent point.
So this is really interesting too, right?
Next round.
This opportunity to standardize the licensing requirements of agents, it kind of opens up this can of worms about, well, what else can we standardize, right?
You know, and I think just a lot of that occurs in negotiations as part of the IPA as well, right? To ensure that so that we know when casting gets to see a tape or brings you in for an audition. And I think changes like that feel a little more as part of a dialogue between performers and their agents. But you know, as Asante said, this is an opportunity to really enhance the dialogue that currently happens and really kind of take it to the next level at this point, because now you're going to be starting from a new place.
And I think I'm starting to see a trend in some of these questions that are coming in, and it's actually quite heartwarming to see everyone coming together with a certain theme. The theme that's coming through for me is very much the theme of trust. A lot of these questions have to do more and more with the specific pieces that we as performers don't see behind the desk, behind the Zoom, behind that, you know, virtual wall that is our agent's office. We trust that they're doing good business practices, and for 99%, they absolutely are. And when it comes to things like transparency of submissions and whatnot, the through line is still trust. This particular piece of legislation deals with the finances, deals with that bottom line thing that is the difference between someone actually not getting paid for their work, which is terrible. But then those other things that come together with trust are absolutely valid points too. I think focusing on that big picture of that trust that has to do with the finances is the utmost priority for a lot of folks right now. But this idea of trust and what it extrapolates into is just an endless conversation of making sure that we're both on the same page. We're both working for the benefit of each other, and ultimately so that the entertainment industry can be stronger than ever.
Amen.
You got my vote, Victoria. Whatever you're running for, I'll vote for you. Okay, Jamie Hill, what should I ask an agent when I'm talking with them about my needs?
It's a good question. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think you want to start with some of the things that affect you directly as an actor. Like, you know, you want to be clear on those T's and C's, right? How is the money going to find its way to you? You know, one of the things I always like to know is, like, is there anyone else on your roster that kind of looks like me? Like, am I competing with in-house, or am I kind of your one go-to for this stuff? Can we have, I think the really key thing, it's kind of like Victoria mentioned, can you establish that relationship right off the bat with a foundation of trust, transparency, and respect. And so once you have that, I mean, there's no end to the things that you ought to be able to ask your agent or talk with your agent about.
Yeah, and I think for me, hopefully within the next 8 months to a year, if one of the first questions you'll be able to ask them is, are you a licensed agent in Ontario? Because that's going to take care of a whole bunch of the rest of the questions that you should have. And I think one of the things that we should just quickly touch on is, in order for an agent to cash your check, in order for them to take your money and put it into the account, there has to be some sort of power of attorney in place, some sort of limited power of attorney that gets set up. So you need to understand that. Overall, you are entering into a business relationship. It is contractual in nature. You need to understand it. You need to digest it. You need to ensure that you are comfortable with it. And if you're not, you need to talk to other people about it. It really is important so that you understand as a performer what it is you are agreeing to. What are you signing on to here? What is your out clause? All of these wonderful things. Again, not part of this regulation, not part of this legislation, but there are great questions that you need to ask. And what I'm hearing is, and luckily an Actra Toronto councillor is on this, is that there needs to be a little more education for new members, for existing members, to understand that exact question. What should I be asking my agent? If I'm interviewing an agent, remember, you are interviewing them as well as them interviewing you. What do I need to ask them? Sounds like a great education series, Bobby. I'm smelling your next webcast here.
I am booked for the next 18 weeks because of all these questions. It's not true at all, but maybe it will be one day. Victoria, did you have any thoughts about, what should people ask? They want to get an agent?
I would just encourage them to follow up on that thought of just making sure that this is a partnership. Just make sure that you understand what you're agreeing to, and that they have a mutual understanding of what you're going to be working together on for the better benefit of both of you. You want to be in a position where you trust your agent. They want to be in a position where they trust you as someone that can go and get the work done. And ultimately, it's all about that.
If you have been here for 97 hours and you are ready for more, type your question in. I am trying to shut it down, but people are so enthusiastic. We appreciate everyone, especially our panelists. You've all been amazing. Anyone who's participating, and again, like we do this every week, right? So we can bring them on again. Clearly, there's a lot of people who are very interested in what Actra thinks and in this topic. So why don't we start to wrap things up, and let's get to the final thoughts, and then. And I'm sure we're going to have a follow-up to this panel because it's been a very successful day. So final thoughts. We talked about a lot today, but it's a big issue. Where do we stand on that? Anybody who wants to go?
All right, I hand it to my friends first, please.
I'll jump in just to share that I'm really encouraged about this conversation. I'm really encouraged that this work is starting to happen. I will be the first one to admit that I was a skeptic. I was listening to the very seeds of this before it became a potential reality, and I thought, wow, wouldn't that be nice in that ideal situation? Well, ideal is now, and ideal is coming. Let's continue to participate in that consultation. Let's continue to lend our voices and our thoughts, so that when and if the time comes, and not if, I'll take the word if right out of my mouth and throw it away. When the time comes, this becomes reality, that it's done right and it's done for everyone's benefit.
Yes, love that confidence, Victoria. There we go. Well, I guess all I'll say is this, there was a term that I picked up in my early days on Toronto Council, and it was artistic working class. And I love that, because the longer that I spend in the industry, the more it rings true. And a legislation like this does wonders for that idea. It's actually done under work for workers. Boy, is that, could that not be more appropriate in this, especially in this day and age, as we see ourselves become more like entrepreneurs, as there are so many opportunities for us to, create our own brand, create our own work. it's legislation like this, as I've been saying, that not only empowers us, but it legitimizes us and it gives us solid foundation to stand on to pursue those dreams, so that we can get back to focusing on what our work really is, which is the art. And that makes me feel good. That makes me feel hopeful.
I want to vote for all of you. I don't know who I'm going to pick.
Well,
Okay, ALISTAIR, we're over to you.
So I think here is continuing what we've been doing tonight, which is continuing the dialogue, having the conversation, so that everybody is aware of what the needs are of this industry. Participate in the consultation. Please participate in the consultation. Government has a stake in this. Performers have a huge stake in this. Agencies have a stake in this. And we need to ensure that all of those voices are actually heard, because everyone's going to bring a different perspective to this. And we want to make sure that we cover all of the bases here. We don't want anyone left feeling that they weren't heard as part of this. We have some great lessons to learn from British Columbia, some great lessons to learn from California, New York. And we have this amazing gold standard in TAMAC and the EIC and their codes of conduct. So we can take those, we can adapt it to Ontario's very unique industry landscape and find an effective path forward that is going to benefit both agents and performers. That's the goal here.
mm-hmm.
ALISTAIR Hepburn, ASANTE, TRACEY, Victoria, Brooks. With mic drop, the triple mic drop. Thank you so much for coming.
Bobby Del Rio.
Appreciate all of you, Bobby Del Rio.
Yeah.
I hate that guy, but amazing show. I'm gonna have a little prepared statement here for our audience, but you guys were awesome. You're welcome back anytime. I'm sure there's going to be a follow-up, and I'm sure we'll be in conversation with you. But I will say to our amazing audience here, it is clear the government's proposal to license Ontario agents isn't just a bureaucratic shift. It is a change that could redefine the standards, protections, and fairness of our industry. We've been talking about this all day. Fairness. Most importantly, it will protect talent. Okay? And so to the viewers, I say, stay informed, stay connected, continue these discussions within your own networks. What happens next will shape the future of the Canadian entertainment industry, and your voice matters. With that said, it is crucial you leave a comment on the government website, and you can see the link. It's available on the Actra site. It's available on the eBoss Canada site. Okay, so we're actively, this is like a process. It's not just listen. It's like, get involved. Go to Actra's parade. Be like ASANTE. Where's my cupcake? Show up. Meet people. Okay? And then you also want to come and watch this every week. And on September 3rd, so excited, our guest will be the legendary Mr. Rich Little. Okay? He's known as the man with 1,000 voices. Legend. We got him here on Entertainment 411. I'm Bobby Del Rio. This has been Entertainment 411.